That, ladies and gentlemen, was the sound of me punching my controller. Twice. Hello everyone, and welcome to... I watched the Game Awards live this year, and when Elden Ring Nightreign popped up, I felt like a little kid on Christmas. But as the trailer played out a bit, I grew a little confused. This clearly wasn't Elden Ring 2, the game that I really wanted. I was concerned a bit until a familiar face popped up. Yup, the Nameless King. One of my top 5 FromSoft bosses ever, and he is coming to me again in an Elden Ring DLC. Well, okay, Nightraign's not a DLC, but myself and I think many other people thought at first that Elden Ring Nightreign was a DLC. So after the announcement, I waited in bated breath. Then, after not too long, May 29th came and I booted up Nightreign for the first time. Now, I knew off the bat that there were several Night Lords in the game, and I also knew that I was going to do this solo challenge, but I didn't really understand how the game worked. So when I queued up my first run, I accidentally did it in multiplayer. I was put onto a crew with John Darksoul and Gary Bloodborne, and while I didn't mean to play multiplayer, I couldn't be too mad that these were the guys I got paired up with. I had selected Wilder, kinda like playing Mario in Mario Kart, but hey, I'm a simple man, and my very first expedition began. Shut up for a second. Hello folks at home, I am Mr. Dump, and I need to talk to you about something more serious than video games for just a moment. That's right folks, I'm talking about death. Nah, I'm just kidding, but hopefully now I've got your attention. But for real, I'd like to, for a moment, talk about NordVPN and how not using it got me into a bit of trouble. You see, a few years back, I got a message online about getting a sponsorship, and it turned out to be fake and a phishing scam, and they got into my computer, and they got all my bank information and passwords and pretty much everything. Now, was that stupid of me? Yes, obviously. But had I been using NordVPN, then their Threat Protection Pro would have let me know right away that it was a scam, and I wouldn't have gone through all that. NordVPN is the premier product for keeping yourself and your loved ones safe on the internet. They can help you avoid falling for scams like I did, and they will also let you know things like if your information is being sold or spread somewhere else like the dark web. And on a much more fun note, you can also use Nord to access content that wouldn't normally be available to you in your region. If you'd like to be smarter than I once was, then you should go to the link in my description, that is nordvpn.com/dumpykong, and get 4 free months off a 2-year plan. Peace of mind is incredibly important, and keeping yourself and your information safe is a very good way to guarantee that. Thank you to NordVPN for supporting the channel. Now let's see if old Dumpy can support John and Gary to a victory royale. Now, I'm not going to focus too much on this because it's completely irrelevant to the challenge of this video, but it was still a notable run in my opinion for one simple reason. We made it to the very end. That's right, literally my first run ever, and here we were facing off against the first Night Lord, Gladius. I'm going to touch on that son of a gun later, but in this fight against him, we did alright. Not to be mean, but I was low-key kind of carrying, and my back wasn't quite strong enough to pull out the win on our very first attempt, and I was totally cool with that. It was a great run, shoutouts to John and Gary, but now it's time for me to actually start my challenge. That challenge being incredibly simple: beat every single Night Lord in a solo expedition. It may seem basic, but it ended up being a much more complicated journey than I was prepared for. So my first run with a full team went shockingly well, but how was my first solo run? Yeah, not as good. As I'm sure most other people that have played Nightreign can attest, even for a Souls veteran, this game has a pretty steep learning curve. You need to learn to balance looting, fighting, and most importantly, moving quickly enough and planning well enough to not find yourself getting caught up in the storm, while still gaining enough runes and flask charges to make yourself powerful enough for the final confrontation. It's kind of a lot. Thankfully, I did better on my second run, but I was still doing really poorly. But through sheer will, determination, and probably honestly mostly luck, I defeated the Night 1 boss, survived the second day, and alone this time beat the Night 2 boss. Iron Eye is a pretty cool character, and at least early in my Nightreign experience, he was my favorite. But here we go folks, round 2 with Gladius. While I fight him in the background, I'd like to note a few things. First of all, I'm level 11 during this fight, which frankly is not high enough. enough. But it was tough to level up at that time because remember, this has all been on the release night for the game, and it wasn't updated to make solos easier until June 2nd, which I'll touch on in a minute. Onto the actual fight with Gladius, I got beat up pretty badly. He's a tough cookie, especially for the very first Night Lord. I was overwhelmed by his constant aggression and went down without a very good fight. I was encouraged, though, by how far I had made it on my first run with a new character, so I tried to do the same thing with Guardian in Run 3. Now, I don't know what I was thinking, but for some reason I made a beeline straight to the castle and faced off against... fuck off. Barring maybe the Bed of Chaos, which I barely even consider a boss, it's more of a level, I guess, I don't know. The Royal Revenant is the worst boss in the entire FromSoft catalog. I did manage to take out the Oracle Envoys, that ult felt pretty damn good, and I also killed the Albinaurix. That left me at level 5 by the end of Night 1, and that was unfortunately not high enough to be able to survive the Bell-Bearing Hunter. I did also do a run with Executor, but for some reason I either didn't record it or lost the footage somehow, but it went exactly the same. After that run though, I took a break from playing solos and started playing some games with my friends. We did 5 runs over 3 hours, during which I got some good practice with Iron Eye and unlocked Duchess, who I really liked. We made it to Gladius a few times, but we were underleveled and underprepared each time, leaving us with only L's to hold. Now, quick personal aside, I had to go out of town the day after the game came out, coming back 2 days later, jonesing for some more Nightreign. I immediately dove back in and am absolutely kicking myself over this one. Not because it was close to the end, but because I hadn't yet learned that it's okay sometimes to go back into the storm to finish a boss off or grab a flask, and I got the Falling Star Beast to like 2 hits away from death, and then I died and didn't jump back into the storm to get my run back. I was scared of the storm and ended up being low leveled and got messed up by the Demi-Human Queen and Yoda. I call the little dude Yoda. He sure as hell moves like him. I once again hopped on with some friends of mine and we did a total of 4 runs. 3 of them made it to the last day, and that includes our final run where we pulled off an insane strategy. Gladius is weak to holy damage, so when we got the Envoy's Longhorn, we knew we really had to put it to work. After my buddy was out of FP, he dropped the horn to me, and this is how it ended.
Dude, you guys got this, no doubt.
Yo, let's go! Oh, fucking
Holy
finally,
shit.
dude.
That's nice.
Hell yeah, man, that felt awesome. The next day was finally June 2nd, when the update that would make my life much easier came out. Essentially, this update makes it so that solo players earn more runes and can revive once per night for free, including the boss fight against the Night Lord. With a newfound sense I could absolutely do this, I whipped Wilder back out and dove into Linveld once again. I started off as I always, and still do, killed these dudes and hit level 2 right away. I ran into the Red Wolf very shortly thereafter, and finally displayed an ounce of self-discipline, running away when it became obvious that I was gonna go down. I got another flask charge, and then once again had to flee from a boss, this time from the Valiant Gargoyle. There was another church nearby, which means another flask, and then after picking off a few stray enemies, I was able to hit level 5. And look at that, another church. I now had 6 flasks and all the time in the world, so I did some looting, got a decent sword, and night quickly fell upon me. It was my buddy the Bell-Bearing Hunter once again, and during our battle, I was very thankful for that new reviving mechanic, because otherwise I would have lost that run right then and there. With a little revive action though, I was able to put him down and move on to day 2. I ran into the Draconic Tree Sentinel almost right away, and even though I died once to him, I got revenge and am now sitting pretty at level 9, and had a sick sword, the Helfin Steeple. At this point, I didn't really know what the lava crater thing was about, so I made my way in there, assuming I could get some decent runage. I fought the Falling Star Beast, and the reward was Godfrey's Axe. That is incredible. I picked up a Wending Grace from a merchant, an item that lets you revive once during a night boss fight, meaning you could hypothetically revive yourself multiple times, and got ready for my fight against Morgott. Now, I certainly didn't perform perfectly, even going down once, but I hit really hard with that axe. Morgott was no match for his dad's weapon, and once I reached the final staging area, I bumped up to level 13. Honestly, I felt at this point that if this wasn't the run where I beat Gladius, then I may never be capable of winning. My battle began all the same though, and I could already tell this axe was going to be great for this fight. You don't always get a lot of hits in, so having a weapon that really makes it count is crucial against this guy. I was getting hit my fair share, but a fully charged ult into a critical hit into a fully charged heavy brought him down to half a health bar. During this stage where he splits up, I really try to focus on just not getting surrounded, and Wilder's grappling hook is great for moving around the arena, making that very possible for me. But things took a pretty tragic turn when I got bodied by his huge fire attack, then blew my last flask and Wilder's ability that lets him avoid going down once. I had revives, yeah, but I was shook up. He split up once again, but then the path to victory revealed itself. My ult. I charged it up, landed it, and got a critical hit to take Gladius down. Ladies and gentlemen, that is one Night Lord down of 8. We'd better speed things up a little bit. The next Night Lord is the Gaping Jaw, and I wasted no time jumping into the expedition to hunt him down. I figured I'd try my boy Iron Eye again, but after an incredibly terrible run, I straight up just quit out of the game so I could restart. Then I thought, hey, Guardian seems cool, why don't I try him? Well, I did, and I made it to the Night 1 boss that time, and it was goddamned Wormface. Why, dude, why? There are so many bosses in Elden Ring that are not Wormface or Royal Revenant. My full diaper aside, I went down to Wormface and decided that my best bet was probably to stick with Wilder. Things started off pretty normally until I ran into this fort and charged the boss with my ult. Wait, what the fuck? It turns out you shouldn't shoot a bunch of explosive barrels with a big blast of fire. Well, at least it killed the boss too. The rest of the day was spent fighting the stone-skinned lords, who I managed to kill, getting a flask charge, killing a rune bear, and finishing things by taking out the Nox warriors. Anywho, the boss for that night was, once again, everyone's favorite ugly fucker, and even though I got deathbladed once, my ult set me up for success yet again. The night was repulsed, and so began day 2. I grabbed another flask, did battle with the Valiant Gargoyle, who dropped me the Dragon Great Claw, very solid weapon, got the third and final flask remaining on the map, and then somehow managed to kill both the Falling Star Beast and the Demi-Human Queen before the night was up. The DHQ dropped the Blasphemous Blade, and I was feeling on top of the world. When the Night 2 boss showed up, I was kinda shocked to just see it was the Crucible Knight. I'm assuming he's gonna have a friend show. Yeah, okay. Oh, that's it. Yeah, alright, who the fuck set up this duo? I think they just spun a wheel and picked these two. It's not that I don't like them or anything, it feels very random. I guess they're both Crucible related, I don't know. I was an unstoppable force by this point, and those two were very movable objects. The ult that hit them both was insanely cool, felt great, and once the Crucible Knight was alone, he was completely useless. That set me up for the Night Lord, and I was pretty confident that I could pull this off. I forgot to mention it, but I had picked up a poison axe at some point, and I saw that the Gaping Jaw was weak to poison, so I had that going for me, as well as some other very solid weapons. I pushed open the door and entered the arena for the very first time. My focus off the bat was to poison him, and I did so pretty quickly. That made him throw up, which got rid of the poison, but it also gave me a good opportunity to do some damage. We did that little dance a second time, but I didn't capitalize nearly as well as I should have. All good though, a big ult from me, some grabs that definitely should have hit me, and a critical hit pushed that boy into his second phase. I had poisoned him again, but he seemed pretty unbothered by it that time. All good because, man, this guy has some incredibly terrible hitboxes sometimes. Not that they're too big, they're really lenient. I was getting away with murder against this dude. I almost felt bad. But after some back and forth, let's go. But spoiler alert, that is not how the next Night Lord went for me. My first run started off very shaky. Sticking with Wilder, clearly my best character at this point, I was only level 3 when I got bum rushed by Morgoth. I decided to stand my ground and fight him like a man, but once again, level 3. And that gave me a curse, which really sucked because as far as I know, there's not really a way to get rid of it. Well, let's fast forward a bit. I was still able to defeat the ulcerated tree spirit, which, again guys, fuck off, and then had a much better second day. way, killing the Oracle Envoys, the Erdtree Avatar, Bell-Bearing Hunter, Draconic Tree Sentinel, and an Elder Lion. That led me into Night 2 against the Great Worm, which much more reasonable boss, in my opinion, and that fight actually went really well for me. I wasn't super confident, but I felt prepared enough to at least put up a fight, and then I met the third Night Lord, Noster. Quick question, which Night Lord is your guys' favorite? Well, I can almost guarantee that the vast majority of you said literally any other Night Lord other than Noster. First of all, gank fight, which already makes this boss controversial, but the problem with this fight is that you pretty much can't hit the Moth, like, at all. I imagine if you were fighting Ornstein and Smo, but Ornstein was, like, flying above you the whole fucking time. It's ridiculous. That means you can pretty much only really hit the big guy, and that guy doesn't ever chill out. And this is all while the Moth is bombarding you with poison, of course. And lastly, there's this attack. What the fuck was that? That was the stupidest shit I've ever seen. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. So the first run could have gone much worse, and the same could be said for the second one, which also made it to Noster, but ended the exact same way. I decided to mix up characters after that and gave Raider a shot. He should really be in my wheelhouse, considering I almost always use strength builds in Souls games, but for some reason, he doesn't really do it for me. I like him more now than I did then, and I certainly don't even, like, dislike him. I think it's kind of his lack of movement abilities that bugs me. Regardless of what I think though, I reached Noster once again and things went completely the same as the first time. He spammed that stupid charging attack at the end, and without a grappling hook or like a Duchess's dodge or something, I couldn't avoid it and I was defeated. My next few runs were also unsuccessful. I made it to Noster yet again, this time with Executor, who was a handful of hits away from getting it done. And then on my next run, this time with Iron Eye, I lost my mind. I died to these banished knights, and when I went back to get my runes... Yup. I beat my controller like it owed me money, but unfortunately I was the one who was going to be a few bucks short because I now had to buy a new one. I have been playing video games since, like, literally some of my first memories are playing video games, and I have never in that entire time broken a controller until now. The bug guys really got under my skin. I don't know, like in The Mummy. Ugh, that's nasty. Well, thankfully my suffering didn't last much longer because after taking a short break, I reunited with my sweet Wilder. This run was pretty lucky for a few reasons. First off, I was dropped right next to 2 churches, so I upgraded my flasks pretty quickly, and the second reason was because the castle was littered with Crucible Knights, and while they can be pretty tough with other characters, starting with Wilder's shield gives you a massive advantage against these guys because the shield comes with the buckler's parry, so you can burn through the knights safely and quickly, earning you decent runes very early on. I did make a bit of a mistake though, going under the castle to fight the boss in the basement, this time being the Red Wolf, and I spent way too long down there, even dying once in the process. I got my runes back and then some, continued killing for as long as I could, and then by the time night hit, I was level 8. The boss for night 1 was the Centipede Demon, and I should definitely take this opportunity to say how cool it is that the old Souls bosses are in this game. Honestly, the entire premise of this game feels kind of like a fever dream, but I really love how willing they were to get crazy with some aspects of Nightreign. Same with the skins later on, it's awesome. Glazing aside, the Centipede Demon didn't take long at all. Day 2 came and I tried to earn as many runes as possible. I killed a few smaller bosses and then made my way to the castle to finish tearing up the Crucible Knights. By the time I had finished all of that, it was night once again, and this time I was up against the Great Worm. Like I said, hey, these guys aren't too crazy, and I made it through the fight without too much trouble. When I got to the prepping place, I picked up another Winding Grace, which I now had 2 of, which means I can technically die 3 times, giving me a very solid shot of taking those pests down. The fight got underway and I started off strong. I had picked up the Monk's Flame Blade, and with these guys being weak to fire, I was getting damage in quickly and efficiently. I did get grabbed and poisoned, which was a bummer, but I paid them back for it by dumping my ult right into their faces. We continued going back and forth, me getting dangerously close to death a few times, but eventually phase 2 rolled around and this time I was ready. I used my grappling hook to stay out of harm's way during their bullshit charge attack, and was feeling the flow state when it came to dodging their other attacks. One big stun, one huge ult, but they answered back in kind by knocking me down once. It didn't take long for me to go down a second time, but my ult was back, and landing that one pretty much sealed the deal. I beat him down, finished him off, and was through my third Night Lord. All in all, fuck those guys. So I beat the first Night Lord with Wilder after having no luck with any other character. I beat the second Night Lord with Wilder after having no luck with any other character, and as you just witnessed, I also beat the third Night Lord with Wilder after, well, you know. I was determined to not be a one-trick loser, and to not get bullied by my comment section, so for the next Night Lord, I was gonna stick with Duchess. That proved to be a great idea. Duchess is a very cool character, one of those easy-to-learn, hard-to-master types. I started off this run the same way as always, hit level 2, ran to the nearest fort, farmed as many of these little dudes as I could, and took out the final boss. I got a Misericord out of that, which is tight because it does bonus critical hit damage, and Duchess's specialty weapon class is daggers. Is it Duchess's specialty weapon class are daggers or is daggers? I mean, there's only one class, so I would think is daggers, but daggers is plural, so it should be are daggers? I don't know, I'm getting distracted. I also got a stone sword key from that fort, which led me to fighting the Godskin Apostle. Personally, I think the Noble is an easier fight, but my ult let me take damn near half his health bar before he even got a chance to fight back, and he went down shortly thereafter. I ran next to this nearby camp and took on the Banished Knights there. No controller breaking this time around, but I did take a little longer to pull the win out than I had hoped. As I was running towards the final circle, a random group of enemies just happened to appear around me, and I did my best to take them out, but it was pretty clear that this was a dangerous situation and not one that would be worth getting killed over at the moment. A danger that was worth it was grabbing this flask inside the storm, because I just ran over that grace I got from killing the Apostle earlier, and I was ready for that night's boss. First off, I had to kill these Lanedale soldiers, and honestly I had no idea who the boss was gonna be, but I was relieved when I saw the Valiant Gargoyle pop up. I'm pretty good against these guys, but even to my shock, I beat him without getting hit a single time. I'm feeling good about this one, gang. I did get kinda reckless though, and I spent a decent amount of the second day finishing off that horde that appeared earlier. I didn't regret it though, because it gave me a solid buff to my ult charge. As a reward for beating the Bug Boys, I unlocked the Mountaintops Shifting Earth event. I don't really understand the Shifting Earth stuff, but whatever. I tried my best to take advantage of the enemies here to continue leveling up. I took only fat W's, but I didn't spend my time all that well, so when night came, I was only level 12, a bit far from the max level of 15. The night boss, though, was another very familiar face, the Tree Sentinel and some friends. I whiffed most of my ult, which was unfortunate, but I ignored the little guys to go after the Sentinel himself, and once he was good and dead, his buddies followed suit pretty quickly. So then, going into this fight, I'm level 13. I've got 2 Wending Graces, and while my weapons aren't fantastic, they're nothing to scoff at. I can't say I was all too confident, but nevertheless, I confronted the 4th Night Lord, Maris, Fathom of the Night. Maris is, to put it gently, a huge pussy. It just stays really far away, spams jellyfish, and then when it does finally get close enough, it uses water attacks that do not have a very clear hitbox. Thankfully, Duchess's ability was really good for this fight because it's hard to get hits in, and I was able to use her ability to make sure that when I did get a hit, I was getting to take it a little bit further. Did I enjoy this fight? No. Do I like Maris? Definitely not. But with sheer willpower and determination, and the ever so helpful Wending Graces, of course, I put the 4th Night Lord down on my very first attempt. Having played more of this game after this point and fighting Maris a few more times, I don't dislike it as much as I did on that first go, but it's still kind of boring. At least for me. It's just not really my kind of fight. But my confidence was now at an all-time high, having beaten 2 Night Lords in a row, so I immediately jumped back into the fray. And that was a bad idea. On that run, I encountered the Swarm of Locusts event, and I had no fucking clue what I was supposed to do about it. I essentially just sat there and let it take my levels, and then just didn't get them back. I went into the Night 1 boss at level 4, and it was the Centipede Demon again, which was cool, and I was able to beat it, but after having a rough start to the second day, I decided to just call it a wrap on that run. You gotta know when to hold them, when to fold them, and when to whip out the biggest, muscliest fucker out there. I really wanted to get used to Raider. Like I said, he should really be a character that I enjoy, so I gave him another go. I couldn't finish my first run because I got interrupted, and there's no pause button in this godforsaken game, but my second run didn't have that problem. You know what problem it did have, though? though, those god's-forsaken locusts. This time, I just took a second to look up what I was supposed to do, and that led me to, oh, you son of a bitch. Didn't I just kill you? Well, I had a very dangerous battle with the sentient pest out in the storm, managing to kill it, but also not surviving it myself. All good, I got my runes back, I hit level 7, and night is here yet again. Son of a bitch, is it only Centipede Demon from now on? That's okay, I don't mind an easy W every now and again, and this guy certainly is an easy W if I've ever seen one. Day 2 was great. I took out a magma worm, and it dropped me the Devourer's Scepter. Ooh, Devourer. That is a hard word to say. And while this Night Lord isn't weak to fire... Wait a minute. He is weak to fire, isn't he? Yeah, okay. This part isn't in the script, but I'm looking at this little chart for the boss's weaknesses, and yeah, he is kind of weak to fire. I mean, it does better damage than most other things. So I guess that was a very lucky draw of a weapon then. Anyways, using that scepter, I tore my way through the castle, which also earned me the Beast Claw Great Hammer and let me hit max level before the night was even up. When night did arrive, though, I was yet again relieved. The Godskin Noble, didn't I just say you were the easier version like a page or two ago? Well, yeah, I was beating the ever-loving... Oh, that makes more sense. Fuck you, FromSoft. Jesus. That fight was an absolute slobber knocker, a nail biter if you will, but hey, I couldn't possibly be more prepared now. Well, I guess I only had one Wending Grace, but whatever. So this fight starts very differently. You're given the chance to make a deal with this weirdo, but I know better. Making a deal with the devil will never end well for you, so I denied its offer, and it was either pissed off or impressed because the fight then began. Libra is a very strange boss, not one that I at all dislike, but this fight with him was just like no other fight I've had with him since. We beat the shit out of each other. I was just heavy attacking, he was slapping me back, I'd use some heavy artillery, he'd tear me up right back. It really was a no-holds-barred, all-out brawl. I don't think I could replicate this fight ever again. It was just pedal to the metal the entire way through. A very even affair, honestly, and even though it was dangerously close to ending in his favor, I slipped to the last hit in and pulled off another first try win. Like I said, I don't think I can make this happen again, but that fight was pretty incredible. And hey, I got an achievement for beating 3 Night Lords in a row. That's awesome. The next boss, though, wasn't quite as easy. Before I could even face that boss, I needed to complete a solid run, and I somehow managed to do that right away. Playing Executor, I showed Limveld who's boss. Level 7 by night 1 as usual, took down the Knight's Cavalry like it was my day job, which it kinda is. And then on day 2, I tore the fucking castle asunder. I was level 13 on my way to the final circle, but the bell-bearing hunter stopped me in my tracks and took a level away from me. I got the runes back, but there was no time to level up, so I was stuck at level 12 for the second night's boss. I had a pretty good idea who the boss was gonna be by the enemies that spawned in before the actual boss fight, and I was absolutely right because Niall showed up shortly thereafter. My ult took me pretty far, and my deflecting skills took me the rest of the way. It's a good thing I played the Reforged mod not too long ago. Really got that deflecting thing down. It was a tough fight, but I was feeling good. But why is it so quiet? Jesus H, dog, what the fuck are you doing here? I was genuinely terrified when she popped up. For some reason my mic wasn't on, but I screamed. I screamed out loud, like a little kid. Well, to be honest with you, I kind of had the perfect counter character for her, so even though I was terrified, I'm pretty decent at deflecting stuff, and other than her sneaky first hit and one more that put me on my ass in between, she wasn't able to do too much against me, and like I said, even though utterly terrifying, and I have no idea where she came from or how to make that happen again, I now genuinely felt unstoppable. But if I was anything in that battle against the Night Lord, it was stoppable. Fulgor is a cool boss. Maybe a little too much with the special effects. Kind of feels like they didn't learn their lesson with Consort Radon, but whatever. But if you don't know exactly what he's doing at all times, then he's an incredibly difficult fight. I could tell pretty quickly that this was not going to be a one and done situation, and boy was I right. I did well, got him to about a quarter of his health remaining, but he outlasted me, and it didn't feel close. My next run, back to Wilder for his mobility, got almost to the exact same point with Fulgor, but again, no luck. I did a few runs with my friends again that night, but the next day I was feeling ready to take on Fulgor, and man, I had an awesome run with Iron Eye. But I forgot to start the recording. Well, shit. I did manage to clip the end of the Night 2 boss, my good friend the Nameless King. Then, thankfully, literally right after killing him, I realized I wasn't recording. Oh, I'm not recording. Oh, I didn't record that. I just killed the Nameless King. So we've at least got footage for my confrontation with Fulgore, because I felt really good about this going into the fight. It began, and the damage I was doing was honestly pretty negligible, but I did a much better job of avoiding his... Oh, shit. Okay, pretend you didn't see that. The bow wasn't hitting hard enough, so I took out my Lightning Mantis blade and realized I should have been using that since the beginning, because holy crud, look at that damage. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I clowned that fucking guy on the latter half of that fight. That was incredibly unexpected. And then you know what's messed up? I got a remembrance thing immediately after that told me I had to go kill him again with Iron Eye, and that I tried to again and I couldn't. It was... yeah, whatever. Well, moving on, I feel like I have diversified enough. Yes, this playthrough was for this video, and I knew that going in, but it was still my first time going through it, and I wanted to do it my way, so it's me and my boy Wilder from here on out. And clearly, that was a good choice, because though I struggled pretty early on, even getting randomly jumped by Maris Jr., who I had to run from because we were both in the storm, I still kept on pushing. I rolled a lucky castle once again, and farmed some Crucible Knights, but I was being stupid and died in the process, leaving me at level 5 to take on, oh no, little spiders. I know what that means. Yep, the Duke's dear Freya. Freya is a pretty easy boss, but it's not her that you need to be worried about. You've got to balance damaging her with avoiding or fending off somehow her spider babies. You could kill them infinitely, but as long as she lives, they're gonna keep coming. It took me quite a while, but after an insanely lucky stun that didn't even hit her head, I got my crit and survived the night. On my way back to the castle to get my runes and revenge, I made a pit stop to kill the tree sentinel and face off with the Leonine Misbegotten, who, oh man, that really sucks. I kinda got no choice now. I needed to take out pretty much the entire rest of the castle if I was gonna earn enough runes to pull this run off, and so I set out to do just that. 1 Crucible Knight, 2 Crucible Knights, 3 Crucible Knights, 4 Crucible Knights, 5 Crucible Knights, and shit, I don't have time to kill the boss on top of the castle. Well, fortunately for me, the Erdtree avatar was standing between me and the final circle, and I had just enough time to kill it and get my second Wending Grace. When the Nox ladies showed up for night 2, I had no earthly idea who the actual boss was gonna be, but I should have known. Ladies with flowing weapons and quick attacks, who else could it be but the Dancer of the Boreal Valley once again? I decided not to risk any more losses and fired off my ult. That means I'll have to charge it up against the last boss, but hey, better than not making it to the last boss, right? I picked up a replacement for the Wending Grace I had just lost and entered the penultimate Night Lord's arena. Oh my god, what is that? Oh. Yeah, I have no idea what I was seeing in that silhouette, but Caligo, whatever, I don't know how to read, is a pretty cool boss. I didn't have any fire weapons to make this fight really easy, but Caligo didn't go too hard against me and sat pretty still early on. Still though, I was getting hit by any move it did use. I landed my ult, which was great, but by the time I had it down to half its HP, I was completely out of healing. I hit a few crucial headshots and such, but then that motherfucker pulled what my friends and I refer to as an AC-130. Just straight up airstrikes you. I was down to basically no health, and though I had those graces, I was incredibly nervous. A huge ult kept me very much in the fight though, and the crit that followed gave me even more hope. I went down almost immediately after, but that's alright, because I've got those graces still, and at least I got some health back from going down. The AC-130 came and went yet again. I hit as many heavy shots as I could, going down for a second time in the process, and I knew I just had to fight long enough to get my ult back. I was reckless though, and went down for my third and final time, but it didn't matter. Yes! Dude. That guy was cool. That guy was cool. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at our final expedition. Like I said, it's Wilder or bust for me, so let's go. Let's take on the Night Aspect. The first run was, for the most part, incredibly solid. I blew through a handful of bosses on day 1, didn't die at all in the process, and manhandled the Valiant Gargoyle once again. I then spent pretty much the entire second day inside the Nox City, but after taking care of my Remembrance quest objective, I killed the Black Knife Assassin, the Dragonkin Soldier, and then made my way out of the city to... Aww. That is so sad. Yeah, it is. I ran into Loretta outside, and I probably shouldn't have spent so much precious time on this fight, but I did anyways, and at least I got a cool weapon out of it. The day 2 boss, who else but my good buddy, the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. Yeah, this time she got cooked up something fierce. Hand of Melania is one hell of a sword, man. But even with the Hand of Melania, 2 Wending Graces, and a nearly ready ult, I felt unprepared. Like, I could just kind of tell that this wasn't the one, but I tried my damnedest, and the fight started off really well. The first phase of the boss fight doesn't have a whole lot of health, at least not when you're playing solo, and so I got through it without going down or spending too many flasks. But that second phase, not only is it a visual spectacle, but the pace immediately kicks up a notch, or 12. I landed some decent shots in there, but if I'm being honest, Mans beat the brakes off me. It may have looked close health-wise, him having about a third of his health left, but it didn't feel close. He put me down and I was back to square one, and I figured I was best off trying again the next day. Now gang, I don't know what it was. Maybe I finally had slept more than like 4 hours for once, or maybe it was my new Wilder skin, but I was feeling lucky. And boy did that feeling show true when I got dropped right in front of a church. The process I've been using, hitting level 2 right away and getting to the nearest fort and killing the boss there, has been paying off really well, so I stuck with that. I then deviated a bit by heading straight for the castle, which is a very bold and frankly stupid idea. But once again, I was feeling lucky, and it paid off when I killed the Leonine Misbegotten, who dropped one of, if not the best weapons for this final boss, Ordovis's Greatsword. Incredible pull. I played it safely and didn't push my luck any further inside the castle, but I did take out a Miranda Blossom, some Crystallians, and some Beastmen on my way to the Night 1 boss. And you know who that boss was? Yeah. Though I was incredibly unhappy to see this stupid fuck, I actually kind of just took it as a challenge. Like, hey, you're feeling lucky? Well, see if you can take on the worst boss ever. And you know what? I did deal with him. I pounded the never-loving hell out of that loser. Get it? Never-loving? Because nobody likes that fucking guy? Okay, yeah, moving on. I almost immediately came across another tough challenger, the Bell-Bearing Hunter. This guy is unreasonably strong. I don't know what the fuck they juiced him up with, but to say I struggled against him would certainly be an understatement. He did manage to kill me, which sucked, but I didn't spawn far away, and he had, like, no health left, so I didn't really lose much time. It seems to me that the best way to get runes reliably is to just kill everyone and everything in the castle, so that's exactly what I did. I was pleasantly surprised to find the Erdtree avatar on top of the castle, and I killed it without too much... Okay, that's not fair. Now, I've been talking about being lucky, but I pushed that quite a bit when I fought not only the Tree Sentinel on the edge of the storm, but then I just fully ran into it to kill the Grafted Scion. It ended up working out, but I was definitely sweating. When the pre-boss enemies showed up, I was both relieved and a little bummed out because I knew the Magma Worm was coming, which is an easy fight for me, but if this really was the end like I thought it was, then he was sort of a lame last night boss. All good though. I kicked his ass like I thought I would, and with those runes, I hit max level and got a second Wending Grace. As I opened the doors to this very final boss, I knew it was the end. I knew that I could do it with the tools at my disposal. Shit, I even let the cutscene play out one more time because, man, I could just feel it. And so, the battle began. We started off by trading blows much more than I would have liked. In fact, I got hit so much that I sort of panicked and ripped my ult just to be safe. But this bad boy is weak to holy damage, and Ordovis's Greatsword does plenty of that. Phase 2 arrived, and while I was definitely nervous, I still felt like I had this in the bag. Even after going down once, I wasn't worried yet. I landed a full hit of my Ash of War, got the crit on him, and then hit him with another full burst of it. He was down to half his health, and he set the scene for the end of our encounter, tearing open the sky and beginning his sort of third-ish phase. I got an incredibly lucky crit on him, and then realized my ult was back and got another huge crit, and that Ash of War again. He was low, but I went down, meaning I'm now out of revives. He used a huge attack, something that potentially could have ended this fight for me, but he whiffed it, and he set me up perfectly. Man, GG's, dude. Well, folks, that's it. I beat every Night Lord all by myself like I had planned, and while it was incredibly frustrating at times, rest in peace my controller, I had a pretty great time doing it. I know that Elden Ring Nightreign is obviously made to be a multiplayer game, but I still found the single-player experience pretty rewarding, and even after I did this challenge, I still had to carry all my friends through the game, so it wasn't like I was done with it. Well, I should say, I am not done with it. I have another video idea for Nightreign, but if you guys have any challenge ideas or anything like that, let me know. It seems like people are already doing some pretty insane stuff. Beating it with their bare hands and beating it without dying, all the Night Lords in a row. It's insane, dude. I also realized at this point in recording this script that I didn't actually talk about how I felt about the game overall, so I'm gonna just kind of off the top it. Nightreign is a really cool game. It is incredibly strange, and like I said, sometimes it feels like a fever dream, and while it doesn't really fit the FromSoft the mold of games they have made previously, I still think that it is a really fun way to experience that FromSoft style of combat, exploration, boss encounters. You use different equipment. It's kind of a cool showcase for people who may not be willing to commit to an entire long story game. It seems like a lot of people are playing Nightreign that didn't even play Elden Ring, so it's really cool to see that people are enjoying it. Anyways, I appreciate you all for watching, and if you are still here, then A, you are awesome and I appreciate you, and B, let me know who your favorite character is. The people online seem very torn about the characters. People are either dumping on Guardian, dumping on Revenant, or saying that they are the best characters in the game. Personally, obviously, as you have seen in this video, I like Wilder a lot, but I've also grown to kind of love Recluse, even though she is horrible by herself, and I plan on playing all the other characters even more. That is it for me though. Thank you again everybody for watching. I know this video is a little bit different, me sitting in front of the camera, but that's it for me though. Thank you all so much for watching. I know this video was a little different, me sitting in front of the camera, but it's kind of fun, and I figured I'd try something new. I hope to see you guys all next time. GG's everybody.